Hey guys, myself Rakesh and I welcome you back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn everything about log label. So this log label has got various different stages or various different logging labels. What are all this? Everything in detail from scratch. From the very beginning, we are going to learn. So let's get started. So for that, let me open the Uipath Studio. And in the Uipath Studio, I would like you to design the simple sequence. Okay, here I have taken 3 assign activities, and the first one I have given a value of 10, and the second one I have given a value of 20, and in the third one I am just doing a sum of it. Okay, very simple, and these all are integer type of variables, and at the end I am showing the output. That's all, very simple. So the moment you debug this or run this from the studio, right, the moment you run it from the studio, there is a logging happens. I mean, it writes as to when the execution started, when the execution completed, all the logging details it automatically registers within your laptop, right? So the registration could happen locally, and also the registration of the logs can happen in the orchestrator. Okay, we'll get onto the orchestrator later. First of all, let's understand the moment I run it from the studio, right? So let's do it. Let's first of all, you can run it or debug it, doesn't matter. So the moment you do this, right, so the execution will start. Okay, 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 done. Right, the moment this is done, somewhere in your locally somewhere in your system, all this information has been saved, which are known as logs. So to find this, all you have to do, control plus L. Okay, control L as in log, control L. When you do, you will find, you will go to the logs folder within your system, and there are multiple different types of logs, and one of the log type is known as execution logs or robot execution logs. I am pretty sure most of you must have gone through the UiPath Academy course, right? Where they have given a complete detail, and in this chapter they are discussing on the robot execution logs. So this robot execution logs is nothing but just now what I have shown you. So this is the execution log. Okay, so today's date, today is March 25th. So on today's date there is an execution file gets created. Similar wise, every day if you find on 23rd I have used, so there is execution log. So any day that you have used your Uipath Studio, you would find every day there is an execution log. So our main focus today will be only on this execution log, which is also known as robot execution log. So let me open this. Okay, let's open this, and I want you to also do this on your laptop. And here, once you open this in a notepad, what you do, try to wrap it. Okay, try to wrap it. That's where you will find all the details. Now let me scroll down, because there are so many details, it becomes quite confusing, right? So what we can do, let's delete whatever the execution logs which are there. I'm going to delete everything, and I'm going to file and save it. So the file is now blank. Let me close this. Let us run this once again. Okay, the moment you debug this, you will find the log file which was now been deleted entirely. You will see there are a lot of information again will be filled in. Okay, let's wait for this to complete. Done. Now let's again do control plus L, right, to open the folder. Let's go inside the execution file. Now look at it. It is quite simple to read. Now what you do, once you come over here, wherever you see the time, right, exactly at the time, what you do, you hit a enter. So that means this is a set of information, this is another set of information. Now in this set of information, what is written, automate with Rakesh execution has started, right? And then it has got information, log type, default, timestamp, at what time I started, right? What is the machine name, what is the file name, right? and then what is the process name, the project name? Automate with Rakesh, right? Automate with Rakesh means this is the project name on the top, whatever name you have given. So everything is appearing properly. So the first set of data is about at what time the execution started. Okay, and the second set of data is saying automate with Rakesh execution ended. Okay, now this kind of when you run it from the studio, it stores all the data in a trace label. So what is the trace label? Let me explain you. So if you open UiPath Academy, okay, so in the UiPath Academy, if you scroll down, I'm in this specific section. Here they have clearly written, by default, running a process in studio will record trace label logs. What is going to log? In trace label logs. So what is this trace label? Let me show you again. So if you open your UiPath assistant and hit on this icon and hit on preferences, this is the page which is going to come. Now on this page you see there are different labels: verbose, trace, information, warning, error, critical, off. What are all this? Now I'm not very clear, right? You may not be very clear with this example. It will be very clear within few minutes. So remember, just make a note, when we are running a process within studio, it does log in the trace label. Okay, in the trace label. Now I'll be interested, what is trace? So there is a complete explanation given here. What is trace? Information useful while developing or debugging, however not useful and needed in production. So once your project is built and you have moved it to the production, that time it is not really needed. So this trace is generally used when you are developing a project within the studio. So by default, when you run any project, anything that you built, by default it's going to log everything at the trace label. So there are various labels: fatal, error, warning, info. We are going to go through all of it, but at the moment just understand, when I am running something from the studio, it is going to log it in the trace label. And let's read the definition clearly. By default, running process in studio will record trace label logs. Clear? In order to set logging to verbose label, so what is this verbose? Do you know the meaning of it? So if you type verbose on Google and understand the meaning, it means expressing something in more words. If you look at using or expressed in more words than needed, that is known as verbose. Okay, I mean it will have some more details. So what are those more details? Let me tell you. And how do you enable within the studio? So by default it will have the trace label logs. Now if you go back to the academy, it clearly tells you, in order to set logging to verbose level locally, again it is storing in your local system. Access the debug tab, enable the log activity option in the ribbon and run the process in debug mode. So what is exactly saying? For you to enable the verbose label within your studio, what you have to do, you have to hit on log activities. Do you see this? By default it will be unchecked, so you have to enable it. So there is a gray icon, that means it is enabled. Now if you run it, you tell me the difference. Okay, the first you saw how it is appearing, the first one you saw. Now let it execute and I'm going to show the difference. So it is very important for us to differentiate between a trace label and a verbose label. Okay, what is the difference? Let's get an understanding through this execution. Okay, so the execution has completed. Okay, now okay, so the execution is completed. Let's again go to that specific folder. So let's close this and try to reopen it. Control L. I shouldn't have saved it. Let's see. Okay, let's run it once again, because I saved it. No, it just did not save all these logs. So let's run this once again. Okay, so one by one it's running. Okay, done. Execution completed. Control plus L and open this execution file. Now look at this. So the first one which we have done is this, started, and here it's saying ended. Okay, so let me, to differentiate, let me simply put a enter. So this is the trace label. So remember, the first one is trace label information, and just notice how less that was. Okay, that is the top one is the trace label. Okay, and the below one, this one, all this are verbose label information. So what are all this? Let's check. Now to understand this very clearly, I said you, wherever you see this timestamp, right, hit a enter. For example, here I have hit a enter. Here again, once again it has come, let me hit a enter. Here once again it has come, let me hit enter. So that you can differentiate what are all this, and we can have a complete understanding. So all these examples, nobody is going to, nobody will really teach you. I'm going to show you so that it will be helpful in case you are a beginner. Okay, so have patience. So I have mostly have separated them. Now look at this, we'll start from the beginning. Okay, so what happened, read the message. Automate with Rakesh, execution started. Done. What is the second thing it's saying? Main execution label, trace log type so and so. Main means what is the meaning of main executing? The main executing meaning, when you are running this, right, this is the main file. That means from the project, if you go, this is the main.xml is executing. That is the meaning. Okay, main.xml is executing. Okay, that we have understood. Let's go down. Then it's saying message logging label executing. Logging label executing, where this is coming from. Now if you see, for the sequence I have given a name called logging labels. If you have written a sequence, then it will say sequence. So here it is saying logging, so it is giving details of each and every step. Okay, now look at the next one. Assign executing. Assignments, this is the activity, the first one is executing. Now here if you look at, it also gives you values of the variable. For this activity, whatever the arguments or the variables that you have used, it also tells you at this time a is equals to 10, b is equals to 0, c is equal to 0. So it is getting all the variables or the arguments that you have used for your project. So it is taking the name of all of them and is telling what is the value of all these variables at this moment. So this is quite useful, right? Now let's move on to the next one. Assign closed. So the assign is closed. At the time of close, the value is still 10. Fine. Then this next assign activity is executing. At the time, the value of a is equal to 10 and b is equals to 20, because the second activity we are assigning 20, right? So with that, both the variables have got the value. Getting it? So it is giving you in-depth details of during the execution what happened. So this is very useful during you are developing a project. Okay, so this will be very useful. If you want to have all the details, then you have to go for a verbose label. Even in the production, sometimes we may need the entire detail of logs, so that time we can enable the verbose label. To enable within the studio, you go with log activities. To enable, right, from the UiPath assistant, you need to select this. Now to enable an orchestrator, I am going to show you, okay, where to do that. Okay, now for the moment, we got a understanding what is the difference between a trace label and what is the difference between a verbose label. Okay, now let's go a little deeper. If we look at here, this one, assign executing, and here the c value is still 0. Let's go a little down. Right, once the sum is being done, look at this, assign executing. Here the after the sum, a equals to 10, b equals to 10, c is equal to 30. So you can see how the value has changed. Okay, Similar way, then the message box comes. So there are a lot of details, lot of details starting. If you read one by one, it will give you the entire meaning. Logging label closed, and then so for that, all you have to do is make a difference between these timestamps. That's where you will be able to read it properly. Okay, message main closed. That means the entire project is getting closed, and at the end, it is telling automate with Rakesh execution ended. The way it started from top to bottom approach, same thing. It is closing one by one. It is closing. So this is the entire details of the verbose label. So with this example, this should be clear. What is the difference between trace and verbose? Now, with this difference, let's do little more experiment. What I'm going to do, I will use something called log message activity. You must have heard about this log message activity. Now for this log message activity, if you look at, there are all these informations are there: fatal, error, warning, information, trace. Okay, up to trace, all the informations are here. So verbose is when you need, if you enable it here, anyways it's going to have it in a verbose way. So what are all this? Let's understand. Let's say fatal. If I select fatal and I'm going to simply type a message, R Rakesh, I'm just typing something so that we can notice this in our log message file. Okay, so let's go here. Let me delete all these execution logs, save it and close it. Okay, now our log file is completely blank. Okay, if I open it again, you'll see it is completely blank now. Now we are going to make little bit of further modifications. The first thing I'm doing, I'm adding a log message and saying fatal, and I'm writing a message saying R fatal, just for indication purpose. Okay, now let me copy paste. Now the highest one is fatal. So what is the meaning of fatal? Do you know? So fatal, so there is a complete explanation in the UiPath Academy. The robot cannot or should not recover from this error. Something has gone critically wrong and the process needs to be stopped. So what is that critically going wrong? When it has to throw a fatal error. For example, the robot has no means of handling an exception, or the website it's interacting with displays a message that it is under maintenance. Let's say you're opening a page, let's say Facebook, and it is under maintenance. Now your robot cannot execute that time because the site is under maintenance for 2 hours or 3 hours. It cannot execute. So at the time you would like to log something called fatal, right? You wanted to send a fatal log message so that it understand, okay, there's nothing to do here, it has to stop, it cannot execute, the automation cannot execute. So that time I'll be using the fatal log message. So let's call, so this is understood. Let's go, this is the top one. Okay, remember fatal is the topmost, the topmost. So for understanding purpose, what I'm going to do, so generally you will see some words like it will say verbose and above, so you will get confused. What is the meaning of this verbose and above, right? So you will get confused. Why people will get confused with this sentence? When you open this UiPath assistant, and here if you see, the verbose has been kept on the top. The moment it is kept on the top and a word comes verbose and above, then you'll be confused. What is on top of this? Everything is below this, right? So this is the main confusion people will have. Okay, so let me tell you what is the order. The very top order is the fatal, critical one, fatal or critical, you can say. Okay, fatal or critical, because in the UiPath assistant, if you see there, they have written critical. Okay, and in the log message again there is something called fatal. So this all can be a feedback for UiPath to change the word to either fatal or critical for in both the places. Okay, so this is done. We have understood the top label is always fatal, and that is clearly done in the order within UiPath Academy. So you can see fatal, then error, warn, info, trace, and at the end they have kept verbose. That is the lower level details, right? Low level details, everything in minute details you want to have. This is the higher level. So fatal is the top one. Now let's go the second one. The second one is error. How do you find it? If you go here and if you select this drop down, the second one is error. What is the meaning of error? An error occurred, the robot will attempt to recover and move on with the next item, right? While executing in your process, if there's an error within the activity, continue on error or try catch you have used, or you want to log a message at the time, you have built the entire, you have built a try catch block, or you have built continue on error, so it is going to continue, but again you want to log something, there was an error at this stage, right? So in those kind of a stage, I'll be using log message and I am going to select error. Understood? Now let's copy paste. The third one is warning. In the notepad, keep writing. The second one is error. Any error comes, then it's going to log it. And the third one is warning. So what is warning? The definition of warning given on UiPath Academy is any important data that we need to stand out from the rest of the log information. So that time I'll be using this log message and select warn, and I'm going to put a message, right? Warning, this process could not complete, or anything, depending on the project, you need to use a log message where you would like to warn something, okay, depending on the situation. So that time I'll be using a log message and select one and write a message. Here I'm simply writing my own messages just for understanding purpose, or practically in a project a proper sentence will be written. Okay, for error let's change it. Similarly, for error I will say error. Okay, why I am doing all this, you will have understanding, so that I can locate it. When I read the log, I can easily locate where they have written R error, where they have written R fatal. All this I can locate it quite well. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so let's quickly do it. The third one is warning. What is the next one? Information. So what is information? So as per the definition, information about robot progress usually includes when we enter, exit a workflow, like execution started, execution ended, information. When data is read from an external source, these are the area where you would like to use a log message and say info. If it is really required, you can go with this kind of a log message and you can put your own information. Here for learning purpose, I'm simply saying R info. Done. Same thing, let's copy and paste. The last one is trace. So I've given you how the trace logs look like, right? You saw that. So here what I'm going to say, R trace. Done. You do not have a verbose because you need to enable it from the UiPath Studio. So now if I run this, what will be the difference? The third one is warning, the fourth one is info, the fifth one is trace, and the last one is verbose. Okay, this is the layer. Okay, remember the fatal is the top one. So sometime when a question comes, right, trace and above, when you select trace, what happens when I'm selecting trace, it is going to log all the above logs. I mean, it is going to also log fatal, it's also going to log error if there is warning. If I'm selecting error, it's only going to log error and fatal. So what are all this? You'll be very clear. Okay, you may not have a complete understanding. As we proceed to the orchestrator, you will understand how this all being logged. Okay, so first of all, let's understand this. So once this is done, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it. The moment we move to orchestrator and I'm going to show it how it runs on the orchestrator and how it stores the data, it will be very clear to you. Okay, so now it has started. Now it will go to all the log messages, and what we have enabled verbose, right? That means it is going to log all of this. If you do not enable trace, even in that specific case, it is going to, because trace is the lowest label, right? It's the fifth layer. Trace the fifth, so it's going to log all of this fatal, error, warning. So anyways, all my log messages will work. So now let's open. The execution is complete. Do a Control plus L. Go to the execution tab or execution file. Oh, there's a lot of information, right? It's overwhelming to read. So for that, to make it easy, wherever you see a timestamp, remember this is the easiest way to do. Just hit on enter so that you can differentiate what are all this. Okay, now if I ask you what is this assign close, so it's still in the assign. Let's look at the, let's go a little down, we'll do a bottom to top approach. So here is saying main is closed. Okay, let's go to this. What is this saying? Logging label closed. Okay, log label is trace. Okay, fine. Now look at this message close trace. Okay, fine. Let's go. So here we have typed something called, look at the message. Okay, here argument equals to, this is the important part you should look at, message r trace. Okay, what is this r trace is logged, why this is logged r trace? Reason being, I have used a log message saying r trace, right? Where do I find r info then? If I go little up, okay, here look at this, look at this one, here it is saying r info, right? Similar way, all the information, if you go one by one, see here it is saying r okay, r info closed, r info, okay, there are two times, right? Start and close, enter. Now look at this, here it is saying r1. Okay, so all these messages that I wanted to pass, that has come and has been registered. So now this is not very still clear, Rakesh, because you have selected trace, right? When you select trace, what happens? Anything above it, everything will be logged. But what if I am going to select only error? So within the studio, you don't have that flexibility. You only have two things, right? Trace, and I showed you the definition a few minutes back. There is, by default, the running process in studio will record trace level. So by default, the minimum level of log that is available is trace. So that means if you select, if you go with trace, what happens? All of this will be logged: fatal, error, warning, info, trace. So I'm not really getting a good example. If I only have to log fatal, how do I do it? If I only have to log errors, I don't want anything else below this, I just need all the errors, how do I do it? So all this question comes to our mind. So first thing, you should be very clear, within the studio this is not possible. Within the studio, because the minimum level is trace, it's going to log all the information, because when you are developing a project, you wanted to know all of this. So by default, in the studio, the trace is the minimum one, and the lowest one is the verbose. When I go with verbose, anyways, it's going to log all the above ones, all the above. So trace means trace and above, verbose means verbose and above, that means it's logging everything. Now there is complete difference when I'm going to upload this to Orchestrator. The moment I'm going to upload this to Orchestrator, there is a complete different scenario. So for that, let's do one thing, hit on publish. So you have built this project, you got whatever understanding you could get within the studio. Now let's move this project to Orchestrator. So hit on publish. Okay, you hit on publish, hit on next, hit on next, don't have to make any modification, hit on publish. Okay, so the moment I do this, within few seconds, the package should now go to Orchestrator. Let's ensure the Orchestrator is on. Okay, it's on. Let's go to the studio. Okay, it's building the package and publishing the package. Okay, the project published successfully. Click on OK. Very good. Let's go to the tenant. Okay, in your Orchestrator, hit on tenant, hit on packages. So if you wanted to see, hit on view version. So I have done it, quite some time. So the latest one is 1.04 is the latest one. Now the package is already there. Let's go to how do I push it to my UiPath assistant? So my UiPath assistant has the old one. Let me close this page. Just open UiPath assistant. So this one is the older one. Prior to this, I have done it, so it is already there. I want to update this. So how do I update it? So let's go to the process. Click on the folder, whichever folder your studio is connected to. Mine is to the IT. So I'll go to the specific folder, and after coming to the folder, you see there is a updates are available. The older one is 1.0.3, the new one is 1.0.4. So click on this. Let's edit this. Okay, hit on edit and let's change the version to 1.0.4. Okay, so once you have it done, just hit on update. The moment I hit on update, right, the update is done. Let's see in the UiPath assistant, it is saying awaiting install. That means there is some kind of update happened, so it is awaiting install, and it is saying 1.0.4 if you highlight. Okay, so now let's run this. So the moment I run anything, so what happened from the studio, from the stage where you are developing a project, from there now you have developed it completely, everything is all right, and you have published it. So it has gone to Orchestrator, and from Orchestrator I am pushing it to UiPath Assistant. So because we are developers, we are pushing it to our own system, but generally in practice we'll be pushing it to customer systems on their UiPath Assistant. So now in the UiPath Assistant, so the process or the project has come, the project has appeared on the UiPath Assistant. Okay, now here what should I do? So the process started running and is saying 30. So the run has happened from here. Okay, now when something is run from UiPath Assistant, you have that question, Rakesh, now it has executed, so it's supposed to log its details somewhere, right? It has to log its details, how it has run, all the logging information. Where do I find it? Okay, good question. So how do you find it? Look at it. Go to the folder from where your process is running. Beside that there is something called logs. Hit on this logs option. Okay, so once you hit on the logs option, you see all the right now it is let's look at the timing. It is 10:30 p.m. 3:24 10:30 p.m. So look, the timing of my orchestrator is in a different way. It is not exactly IST. So to change the timing format, what you do, let's go to the tenant and let's go to the settings, because see by default the UTC time is there. Let's select Indian timing, or whichever country you are from, you can select that. Plus 5:30. Okay, Chennai, Kolkata, this is Indian timing, so I'm going to select and hit on save. Okay, so once you are done, let's go back to the folder, go to the process. Okay, very slow I'm going so that you can understand. I went to the process and hit on logs. So look at now, the timing has changed. It's 4:41 a.m. So look at this. At this time, all this log information has been logged. So you see there are a lot of details for and let's make the items as 50 so that I can see all the details. So what happened? A lot of information. Let's see from where it started. Automate execution started. Okay, from here it has started. Okay, 4:33 a.m. automate with Rakesh execution started. And prior to that, when I was running it from my studio, even those logs have been uploaded. So how it is uploading? Even though I was running from UiPath Studio, it is uploading through the UiPath Assistant, because my UiPath Assistant is connected to Orchestrator. So it is sending all the information even to the Orchestrator, whatever I'm doing on my studio. Now let's look, the moment I have run this from the UiPath Assistant, here you can see everything has been logged, all the details has been logged. Okay, all the details has been logged. Now why this is happening, to have an understanding, let's go to preferences. And in the preferences we are going to check what was the settings for the log level, what did I select. Okay, for example, now things will be very clear to you. Okay, look at this. So because I have selected verbose, it has selected everything. What if I'm going to make it off? Okay, I have turned it off, and I'm going to minimize this, let's say. Okay, the last log has happened at 4:41 a.m. Let me run it once again from the UiPath Assistant. Okay, so the time now is 4:04. Okay, 4:04 a.m. So this execution has, okay, the execution is complete now. Once the execution is complete, here because I have turned it off, do you see I have turned it off in the UiPath Assistant, and the project is also running from UiPath Assistant. It's not running from Studio. I'm running it from UiPath Assistant and I have made it off. Now if I refresh this, do you think I will have any logs of what execution happened? See, I do not have any logs. This is the last log. Now let me tell you, because our project contains all this, right? Fatal, error, one, info, everything is there. So let's do little more experiment. And here what I'm going to do, let me select critical. So if I'm selecting critical, because I said critical is the topmost one, there is nothing on top of critical. So the only thing which should register is critical. Only critical log message should be registered. So if I select critical on my UiPath Assistant preference page, right, I have selected critical. Now let's run it from UiPath Assistant. So what would happen if I run like this? Tell me, everything will be logged or only the critical will be logged? What is your, okay, so the execution is complete. Now see, I have used so many log messages. Fatal, or critical, both are same. Error, warn, everything I have used. So is this going to register all of this or no? As I said, the rule is very simple. The top means this is the only thing. If I am saying error, then it's going to register error and fatal both. If I'm saying warning, it's going to register warning, error and fatal. If I'm saying info, it's going to register info, warning, error and fatal. Okay, this is how it works. That and above. So if I'm using fatal, there is nothing above it. So only fatal should be registered. Let's go and refresh it. Okay, now look at it, 4 5. This is the last one, execution ended, it's saying, and this is only thing that it has registered is fatal. At 4 5 32 seconds, there's a fatal error occurred. Understanding? Now let's change it. If I change it from fatal or critical to error, if I select error, then what would happen? Then it's going to show error and fatal both, error and above. So let's run it once again. So this simple, that's why I have taken that example. So it becomes quite easy because many people don't understand how the logging really works. Okay, many are confused, so I thought let's create a video and brighten up the knowledge around this. So the execution is complete. Because I have selected error, what would happen? Look at this. So that is the last one. This is the recent one, 4 6. So it is saying R fatal and then error, both are registered. Nothing else is registered apart from this. Now if I run it once again, getting it how it is registering. If I select information, if I'm selecting information, so what is the rule? The rule is pretty simple. If I'm selecting sorry, the third one is sorry, I got confused. Let's go here, fatal, error, warning and then info, right? The third one is warning. So go with this log message. Okay, this is written in the right way, or else follow the UiPath Academy and follow this, fatal, error and warning. So warning is the third one. So if I go with, so the feedback for UiPath is that they have to set this properly. Okay, so the third okay, critical, error, so let's go with warning. Okay, if I go with warning, it is done, just that it should be done in the reverse order, so that gives us more understanding. So if I keep it as warning, right, if I keep it as warning and let's run it, what would happen? Let's go to orchestrator. So last time only fatal and error has come. Now it should show three things. Okay, let's refresh it. Okay, look at this. This has run at 4 8. So this is the last one. This is the three things that it has registered: fatal, error and warning, right? Understood? Let's do a little more experiment. Let's get a proper understanding. Okay, now let's move to information. So information and above should be registered. Information and above means all this should be registered. Four things should be registered now. So let's run it, getting it. So with this example, you will never have doubt. So while reading UiPath Academy course, logging level course also, you will not have doubt. You will have pretty clear idea if you have gone through this video completely. Now Let's refresh it. Okay, so now because I have selected information, there are two additional things which is coming. So it is also registering at what time the automation started. Getting it? That is the last one. So at what time automation started, at what time automation ended, and within that all the four things has been registered. Okay, in the right order which I said. So it is going to register, right, info, the top one first, fatal, then it has registered error, then it has registered warning, then it has registered info log message. That means all the specific log messages are executing. What you type the message doesn't matter. This is a demo just to tell you all these are getting registered. Fine. Now if I select trace, what would happen? All this will be registered, right? Let's do that. If I go with a trace, I'll go over here and I'm going to change it to trace, and then open the UiPath assistant and run it. So what would happen? Trace, you have seen it will have lot more details than information, right? I clicked on. Okay, the run is complete. Let's refresh it. Okay, now look at this was the last one at 4:10 I have started. So automation execution started, fatal, error, warning, info, trace. Okay, do you see all these things? Trace and above has been registered. Remember this word, trace and above. So trace and above has been registered. Fatal, error, warning, info, trace. Okay, all this has been registered along with at what time the execution started, at what time the execution ended. This we have seen the demo within the studio. Fine. Now the lowest level is verbose. The lowest level verbose. That means low level. I mean minute details. Remember, people will confuse with low level and high level. So low level means what? Minute details. Minute, small details. So that's why I'm calling it as low level. So the low level, if I'm selecting verbose, what is the rule I have told you? Verbose and above. If I'm selecting verbose, that means all this will be selected, starting from trace, info, everything with in addition it will also have activity specific details. Activity specific details also will be logged. That is the specialty of verbose, right? Okay, so I have set it to, let me see, I have set it to verbose. Now if I run this from UiPath assistant, okay, okay, so execution is completed. Let's go to orchestrator and refresh it. So what am I going to see? Now look at this, automation execution ended, but I have to scroll a lot down to understand when it started. See, it has started, so it has getting all the activity level details, when the main started, logging level, when the sequence started, when the assign activity started, closed, at what time. Okay, all this in assign executing, closed, assign executing, message box executing, message box closed, then it is logging the R fatal, log message executing, log message closed, R error, log. So look at this, all minute details it has got. That is why it is called verbose. The meaning of verbose is using or expressed or in more words than are needed. So this is required during debugging. Only in the production, if somebody tells you I need all the details, then set it to set it to verbose. Now you will say, Rakesh, when we are built a project and we'll be sending it to all the users, do you think I will go to all the users and tell them, hey, go and set it to verbose, hey, go and can I, is there something available within orchestrator where I can change it? Correct, no? That is also correct. Is it possible? So because it is there on my system, I'm able to make changes and show you a demo. But if I need it from the customer systems, anyone who has run it, I want all the, which is the host name, where it has run, at what time he has run it. So if I want to capture all those details, where is the place within orchestrator where I should go and make a change, right? That is the question that comes to mind. So let me also answer that question. So if I go to tenant, okay, hit on the folder, go to tenant and hit on the folder. Now when I am registering a user into orchestrator, for example, I have registered myself, right? I have added, you can also add, assign account and group names, or the username. You can add more people, because this is the community edition. I'm teaching, so I have added, anyways, by default my name is there. So here, when I'm creating a building a robot, right, when I'm adding a user, hit on this edit button. I'm going to show you where exactly that is available. Hit on this option, and during the robot setup process, right, you must have done it. Okay, during the robot setup process, the third one which says robot settings, here you have something called logging settings. Okay, now here in the logging settings you need to enable it, and once you enable it, it also has an option to select what kind of a, by default is information. Remember, by default, either in the UiPath Assistant Orchestrator settings page or in the Orchestrator, by default the information is the default thing that has been given. So when I say information, what are the things will be logged? Warnings, error, fatal, when the project started. Basic information will be stored, right? Basic information will be stored. Now the moment I also have an option here, I can select anything. Let's say I want to select Verbose, I want all details, then I can select Verbose and update. The moment I update, as per the robot settings, this will take precedence. So it doesn't matter what you have selected in the UiPath Assistant, because you have set it on the administrator label on the orchestrator, this will take the highest precedence. Doesn't matter what the user is doing there. So here whatever you have done it, right? So all these things, as per the information that you want to collect from the system, if I select Verbose, I can collect all the information, at what time the user has started the execution, what was the warning, right, at which activity. So all these details I can collect. Okay, so I think I have given a lot of details in this video. So anyone who is developing a project and was pretty confused, right, about what are these logging labels, or anyone who is learning as a beginner, if you're learning, so and you have gone through this UiPath logging label, and if you did not had a proper understanding, right, after watching this video and you go and read this all the sentences what is written on UiPath Academy, that would make more sense to you now, because you have seen a live demo of everything that you needed to know. Okay, how they operate, we have executed practically, we have proven it as to how the logging label happens within the orchestrator, everything we have seen. So thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for all the support, guys. We are going to meet again in our next video with some more new interesting information. Thank you, take care, bye bye.